Hello class, for my demo topic, I'm going to be talking about every single little detail that goes into a shortboard. And every little detail is important. It can kind of make or break the board. Like even the smallest, slightest detail can completely change the board, especially in shortboards at least. I know friends who've had shortboards where they're the exact same dims, but they feel different. So every little detail is important. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the length of the board. And the length is super important because it determines the type of waves you're going to be surfing and the style that you're going to be surfing with. So on a shortboard, you're typically going to be surfing more steep and hollow waves, while on a longer board, like 9 foot and above, you're going to be surfing smaller, mushier waves. And with a shortboard, you're going to be doing more like high performance maneuvers and turns and carves, while on a longboard you're going to be doing more longer, slower, drawn out carves and like hang fives and kind of just messing around. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the thickness of the board. And thickness is super important because it helps determine like how much float your board's going to have and like how buoyant it will be because of the amount of foam that will be in the board. And it also helps with like how well you'll turn. With less like buoyancy or volume they call it, you'll be able to like more chippier and more maneuverable, more like a skateboard kind of. Next thing I was going to talk about was the width. And the width is super important because it helps determine the outline, and those two kind of go hand in hand. So the outline of this board is like a twin pin. So it's more of like a short board with a rounded pin tail, and it has twin fins in it. And this board works really well with barrels and going fast down the line. Then another thing I wanted to talk about on the board was the rocker. So if you could see it, that, see it flips up. It does that on the tail as well. And rocker's super important because it helps determine either how well you'll get into waves or how well the board will turn. So with a more flat rocker, the board is going to get into waves way better and earlier, but it won't turn as well. And then with a more rocker that flips up, it's going to turn way better, but it won't get into waves as well. Then another important factor in surfboards is the concave. Can't see it too well, but this board has a double V concave where it's like a spine almost on the bottom, and that helps with the flow of water going through the board. And with a double V, more water can get through, allowing the board to go faster compared to a single concave, which is just like a U. And the U is better because it holds in the wave better while you're doing turns, and it feels more stable, but it won't go as fast. It's a problem. So if you want a faster board, you'd want the double V concave. Another thing I wanted to talk about were these edges. These edges are super important for having hold in the wave. They keep your rail connected in the wave when you're doing turns and carves and wrapping around. And without them, the board would just kind of slide out. So on some longboards, the edges will be built kind of like this all the way through the back. And it's called a 50-50 rail, where the rail meets like in the middle, like a 50-50. And then a couple more things I wanted to talk about were the fins. So on this board, I have keel fins in it where the back actually hangs off a little more from the fin box, which means the fins are kind of further back than normal. And these are really important for at least this board because you want more like drive and hold in this board, and this board has the fin boxes that hold the fins in right here placed further up, meaning they're meant for these kind of fins. With a more upright fin that doesn't go as far back, it won't be as good and won't work as good. And yeah, that's mainly all the topics I wanted to talk about that goes into a surfboard. And all of these little details will be super important in the type of board that you'd want to ride. And hopefully if you're ever buying a board, you could think about this video and think about all the details.